welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we are going to be talking about my favorite series of 2023. I have read a ton of series this year. I've completed a ton of series this year, so it was actually really hard to make this list, but I did narrow down to some of my all-time favorites from this year. I gave myself a little bit of criteria. These are all series that I started this year, so nothing that I started last year and finished this year. These are all ones that I started this year, and most of these I've read like the majority of the series. I didn't choose ones that I had only read like one or two of the series. Most of these I have read almost all of the books that are out, or I've completed the series. And yeah, that's my criteria. And I have a ton. I have a bunch of different subgenres, so we're gonna get into it and I'm gonna tell you about some of my favorite series. So the first one that I have is the Blue Moon series by Lucy Score. For this series, this is the only one that I have that doesn't super fit all of my criteria, and that's because this series, I read and finished the core books in this series. A small town series that follows a group of brothers. So I have read the first 3 books in this series that are about the 3 brothers. The rest of the books in the series are sort of about like side characters that you slightly see in the series, but the core main brothers are the books that I have read already, and that's the ones that I want to recommend and mention. I do eventually want to go back and read the other side character books, but the core series is the 3 brothers, and I did read and love those books. So this one is actually, I think, book 2 in the series. It's not book 1, but it is my favorite, so it's the only one that I own. But the first book in the series is, I think, called No More Secrets, and I will put a picture of it. But these are, like I said, small town romance books. They are featuring, like I said, 3 brothers who own this ranch, this farm. That's probably a better word. They own this farm, and the 3 brothers are very different, but they're all really close, and one of them had left and gone into the military, I believe. One of them had left and moved to California to be like a screenwriter, and the 3rd brother is the one who actually this book is about, and he became the mayor of the town, and he stayed in his hometown. And this series, the 3 brothers end up all coming back to the town and falling in love. The first book in the series is about the brother who I believe was in the military, and he has come back, and he is having a article written about the farm, and he falls in love with the reporter. This one is, he's the mayor of the town, and there's a new single mom who moves to town and who rents his guest house, and they fall in love. And then the 3rd book is a second chance childhood friends romance, and I just really love them. I had such a fun time with them. This was when I was deep in my small town era. I was looking for every small town, and I was finally recommended this series, which I had never heard of, by Lucy Score. It's not one of her popular series at all, and I had such a fun time with it. I will say that this book is written not in first person, it's in 3rd person, I guess, and so if that's not something that you like, I get that, but I read the audiobooks, and that's why it was much easier for me to get past the fact that they weren't in first person. And I actually ended up really liking the fact that they were not in first person, because you got to see all the things that were going on, even if the characters weren't aware of it. So I had a really fun time with it, and I would recommend it. I really liked it. The next one is actually a series that I don't own any of the books in. I need to go buy them, but that is the Mobsters and Billionaires series by Kelly Fox. At some point this year, I don't remember what month it was, but I became obsessed with Kelly Fox. I read this series and ended up reading a ton of Kelly Fox books. I think I read 10 of her books this year, and she's a new author. And this series is all MM series that are very lightly mobster related. If you want to try Mafia romance, this would be a good one to start with, because they are so lightly Mafia. You don't get a ton into the Mafia elements, but it's a step into dark romance. It's an beginning step into dark romance, and they're so fun. So this series is a 4-book series, and it follows this group of friends who are all billionaires, and they fall in love with men who are associated with the mafia. So the first book in the series is about this guy who's like a huge billionaire, and he's like an asshole. He is an asshole, and this employee who happens to be related to a mafia leader but is trying to leave the mafia. He works for this billionaire and he calls him out in a meeting. This guy is talking so much shit. One of the heroes, the billionaire hero, is talking so much shit, and the mafia hero steps up and he ends up having this like super viral video where someone films him yelling at the boss and basically is like, you an idiot and you're talking all sorts of shit. And the billionaire gets pissed and he ends up firing him, but then his company goes downhill and he ends up needing him back and is like, goes to him and is like, can you help me out? But he ends up pissing off the mafia, and then the guy the other hero, I can't remember their names, I'm so sorry. The hero that is associated with the mafia has to protect his billionaire ex-boss who fired him. And it's so fun, and that's the start of the series. And then the other ones in the series are all about other billionaires who are friends with the billionaire from the first one. I know that was a little confusing without having any names and MM, so it's just him and he and all that stuff. But I promise it's so good and so fun. I was actually recommended this series when I was looking for something that was similar to Necessary Evils by Onley James, which is one of my favorite series from last year. And I totally get it. Like, they were so right. So if you love the Necessary Evils and that like dark romance, but super like fun dark romance where they are like very lovable, crazy people, I would recommend Mobsters and Billionaires because it has that same sort of like silly, but like sort of dark vibe. So the third series that I have is the Lost and Found series by Catherine Cowles. This is book 1 in the series, which is Whispers of You, but I have read all of the books that are currently out in the series. There is one more that isn't out that comes out next year, but this series is a small town romantic suspense series that follows family members. Each book is about a different family member. This book, which starts it off, is a second chance romance. The hero comes back after many, many years and he ends up having a second chance romance with his girlfriend who, from when he was younger, she is in danger and she ends up needing his help, or he takes over everything and like tries to help her. But each book has its own separate suspense plot in it, which I love. I love the way that Catherine Cowles does her suspense. She always has the very perfect balance of romance and suspense. I have read so many romantic suspenses where there's not enough romance or not enough suspense, and so you don't care about the suspense plot. Catherine, especially in this series, does such a good job of making an equal amount of romance and suspense, so neither one is boring and neither one is overbearing or overpowering, and she just does it so, so well. These books all feature really amazing characters, really amazing love stories, really interesting suspense plots, and I just love them so, so much. And my favorite book in the series is Shadows of You, which is the most recent one, but each book, I've given almost every book in the series 5 stars, and it's just so, so good. And I cannot wait for the last one. So if you're looking for a romantic suspense, or you want to try out romantic suspense in a way that won't be like super boring or super overbearing, would recommend this series. The next one that I have is one of my all-time favorite series now, and that is the Cottonwood Cove series by Laura Pavlov. I became obsessed with Laura Pavlov this year. She is my #1 read author this year, and she's a new to me author this year. I love this series so much. This is about a family who all lives in Cottonwood Cove, and each book follows a different sibling in the Reynolds family, and they are so swoony, so good, and I love them with my whole heart. This first book, Into the Tide, is about Hugh Reynolds, and it is a best friend's younger sister romance, but they have such good tropes in this series. My favorite in the series is probably book 2, which is Under the Stars. And Under the Stars is a Grumpy Sunshine boss assistant romance, and it's so friggin' good. but there are such good tropes in all of these books. The they're like family aspect, or even like the found family, the Reynolds family is always adding like new people into their family. They're so sweet and amazing. These siblings have some of the best relationships ever. Their group chat that they have with all the siblings made me laugh out loud. I loved it so much. The banter, just absolute everything, the spice, everything about these books is amazing. I love them so, so, so much. I read all of the books this year. They came out this year, this whole series, and the series is finished, and I am so sad about the fact that the series is over. I'm excited though that she's doing like a spin-off series, but they're so good. Please read them if you like small town romances. They're so good. The next series that I have is the Legacy of God series. This is a series that I was shocked that I liked. I read and binged this entire series actually this month in December. I got really into it and I just could not put it down. This series is so fucking addicting and it's so dark. It's so dark, but I had so much fucking fun with it. It is a dark romance series about these two colleges that are in London, and the two colleges are rivals. They don't like each other, and there's these societies in both of them, and those societies are super against each other. They very much hate each other, and each book is about one person from one college and one person from the other college having a romance, and they're all really dark. They all feature incredibly dark sexual themes. They have psychopathic characters. This one, the hero is actually a true psychopath. Like, he has no feelings, and there are a couple of them in the series, and they're so fucking fun. They are so fun. They are trigger warnings up the fucking wazoo though, so please, please, please check your triggers. But holy fuck, they are hot. They are freaking addicting, and they are so, so fun. They're so fun. And the characters are great. Like, they're so interesting and fleshed out. And from somebody who had never read any other Rita Kent, you can read it without reading the previous books. Like, I think there's like 30 books in this like universe, and I have not read any of the parents' books. And in this one, I was really shocked that you do actually get some of the parents' perspectives at the end when the kids like come home to their parents' house. And I thought that was so interesting to read in a book. If you were somebody who had read the previous books, I think that would be super cool to like have your POV of the characters that you know and love. But for somebody who hasn't read the previous books, I still really loved that. I thought that was so interesting to get their like parents' thoughts. But I absolutely loved this series, and I was shocked how much I liked it. I have a whole reading vlog reading the series, and it's so good. The next series that I have is the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. I read the first 3 books that are out in this series this year. The rest of the books are not out yet, but I love this series. I liked her Twisted series, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. But this series, I love, especially this book. This is my favorite in the series, which is book 1. But the characters are so good. They all feature billionaire heroes, and they're just so, so good. This one is a arranged marriage, or like, I don't know how to describe it because they are arranged engagement, but the hero doesn't want to be engaged, and he going along with it for dubious reasons. But it's the whole series that I've read so far, that's out so far, has been so, so good. I think it's her best work, and I can't wait for the rest of the series, and would recommend. Then I want to talk about the Perfectly Imperfect series by Neva Altaj. This is a bind up of the first 3 books in the series, but I've actually read all 8 that are out so far in the series, and I love them. I love them so, so much. Avery from Ava's Romance Books is the one who actually got me into this series, so thank you so much, Avery. But I love this series. This is a Mafia series that features a bunch of damaged heroes, and it also features heroes who have chronic illnesses or disabilities, and I love that in a Mafia setting. I think that's so, so cool. The heroes are Mafia men who are very high-powered, who have are very like badass and they are disabled, and I think that's so cool. I think one of the first books in the series, maybe even book 1, the hero is like the head of the mafia and he is a wheelchair user, and I think that's so cool to get a wheelchair user in a position of power, which is not, especially a man, and I think that's so cool. That is not very common, especially in books, and I think that is amazing that Niva Altaj showcases heroes like that and that are just as like badass and anti-hero and morally gray as the other heroes that are able-bodied. But I love this series so much. Like I said, have read all 8 or 9 of the books that are currently out, and they're so good. The heroines are all super, super badass in them too, and I really love them. It features all of the really fun Mafia tropes like arranged marriages and age gap, and they're so fun and so good. And each book is like not too long and not too short. They're like just 300 pages, anywhere between like 280 and 320 pages, which I think is like such a perfect range for a book. And they're like not overly long, but they're not like novella length, so you get a fleshed out relationship, but it's not dragged out, and it's so good, and I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Then the last series that I want to mention is probably gonna shock absolutely nobody, and that is because it's the Alliance series by S.J. Tilley, which I have talked about so fucking much on my channel because I love this series. I am obsessed with this series, and I am obsessed with S.J. Tilley. This is another Mafia series, and it features plus-size heroines and morally gray heroes, and there are only 3 books currently out. The 4th book actually comes out this month at the end of the year, and I will be reading it immediately. But this series, I feel like each book has gotten better as they've gone along, and I am so excited for the 4th book to come out. But like I said, this is a Mafia series. It features these 2 guys who started this Mafia organization called the Alliance. The first guy that started its name is Nero, and his book is the first book, and it is a stalker romance. He meets this heroine when he is running from the police, and he runs into her on her balcony door. It happens to be open, and he runs in, and she's like, "Who the hell are you?" And he becomes obsessed with her, and he stalks her, but it's okay because she's into it. Then the other hero who runs the Alliance, name is King, and his is the 2nd book, and he has a romance with a heroine when she witnesses him kill somebody, and so he kidnaps her and forces her to marry him so that she can't testify against him, and they fall in love. It is fabulous. And then the 3rd book is called Dom, and it is about a hero who runs the Italian Mafia, and he wants to be part of the Alliance because he wants their help, and so he tricks King's sister into marrying him, and then uses that as a way to get in with the Alliance, and it's so, so good. Morally gray men, plus-size heroines, such good, addicting plots, and I can't wait for Hans, and the series is so fucking good, so please read it. But that is the last one that I was going to talk about. I have read such amazing series this year, so it was really hard to narrow down, but these are amazing series, such good books. I would highly, highly, highly recommend them. So many 5-star reads from these series, and that's gonna be it for this video. So like this video if you liked it, subscribe, stick around, see more content from me, and comment down below with a series that I should read in 2024 that you would recommend me. That's gonna be it, so I hope you have the absolute best day. Bye!